Jesus needed money for taxes. He didn't have it. His disciples came to him and asked, "Teacher, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax?" Jesus said, "Yes." But here's the thing. They didn't have the money, not in their pockets, not anywhere. So Jesus says something extraordinary. He says, "Go to the lake, cast your line. The first fish you catch will have a coin in its mouth. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours." That's Matthew 17:24-27. And when you really think about it, this story is insane. How does a fish have a coin in its mouth? How did it get there? When did Jesus put it there? Did he go to the lake the night before? Did he walk on water? Did he just... No. Most people read this and they think it's just a miracle story. Cool. Jesus did magic. Moving on. But they're missing the point. This isn't about magic. This is about something far more important. Let's think about what Jesus is actually doing here. He could have done anything. He could have turned stone to bread. He'd done it before in the wilderness. He could have created money out of thin air. He's God. He can do that. He could have asked the temple leaders for an extension. "Hey, can we pay next month?" He could have told Peter, "Don't worry about taxes. I'm above the law." But he didn't do any of those things. Instead, he said, "Go fish. Cast your line. The first fish will have money." Why? Why would Jesus make this so complicated? Why would he make Peter go to the lake? Why would he make Peter catch a fish? Why would he put the coin inside the fish's mouth? Why not just create the coin in Peter's hand? Because Jesus isn't just solving a financial problem, he's teaching something about trust. Here's what most people miss. Peter was stressed. Tax collectors were asking for money. Peter didn't have it. What do? You panic. You figure out how to get money. You borrow. You sell something. You work harder. That's the normal response. But Jesus is saying, stop. Don't panic. Trust me. Go fish. And Peter has to trust without seeing. He doesn't see the coin. He doesn't know how it's going to work. He doesn't understand the mechanism. All he knows is Jesus said it, so it must be true. Peter goes. He casts his line. And the first fish has a coin. Exactly what he needed. Exactly when he needed it. Do you understand what Jesus was demonstrating? He's not just solving the immediate problem, he's teaching Peter a principle. The principle is, your provision doesn't come from where you think. It doesn't come from your job. It doesn't come from your savings account. It doesn't come from borrowing or struggling. Your provision comes from trusting me, even when you don't see it coming, even when you don't understand how it's going to work, even when you can't plan for it or control it. The coin was always going to be in that fish's mouth. But Peter had to trust that first. He had to take action based on faith. He didn't wait for the coin to appear in his pocket. He didn't wait to see it before believing. He believed first. Then he went fishing. That's faith. Here's where this hits you. Most of us are like Peter. We're stressed about money. We're worried about bills, about rent, about next month, about emergencies. And we're looking for money where we think it should come from our paycheck, from savings, from a loan, from a side hustle. But what if your provision is supposed to come from somewhere else? What if God is saying, stop looking there, trust me. The provision is coming, but not how you expect. We can't do that. We can't just trust without a plan. We need to see the money before we believe it's coming. We need to control the outcome. We need to understand how it's going to work. But Jesus is saying, that's not faith. That's not trust. That's control. True faith is going to the lake when you're broke, casting your line when you don't know what's going to happen. Taking action even though you can't see the result. That's where provision lives, not in what you can see, but in what you trust. Jesus didn't just teach this. He lived it. He was broke. He didn't have money for taxes, but he wasn't worried because he knew the provision is already there. I just have to trust it and then take the action. So the question for you is, where are you trying to create your own provision? Where are you forcing a solution instead of trusting a provision? Maybe it's money. Maybe it's health. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's your career. You're working so hard to make it happen. But Jesus is saying, go fish, cast your line, trust me. And you're saying, but I can't see the coin. I don't know how it works. I need a plan. But the coin is already there. The provision is already in place. You just have to trust enough to take the action. You just have to be willing to go to the lake even though you're broke. You just have to cast your line even though you don't know what's going to catch. You just have to believe before you see. That's the difference between faith and fear. Fear says, I need to see it before I believe it. Faith says, I believe it, so I'll take the action. Peter took the action, and the coin was there. But here's the uncomfortable part. Jesus didn't tell Peter the coin would be in the fish's mouth. Jesus said, go fish. The first fish will have the coin. Peter didn't ask questions. He didn't doubt. He just went. How many times do we not go? Because we're asking too many questions. How many coins are still in fish's mouths because we're too scared to cast the line? Your provision is waiting, but you have to trust without proof. You have to take action without certainty. You have to believe before you see. That's the real lesson of the coin in the fish's mouth. It's not about a magic coin. It's about a God who knows exactly what you need, exactly when you need it, and is already providing it. You just have to go fishing.